is to bring attention to issues that most people are too uncomfortable to talk about. And by the way, there's a lot of people that agree with Adams on this stuff. They're just not as bold as he is to talk about it.
Well, let me say this. I had no problems with the conversation he was having with Adams, but here's the thing. I was trying to interject because I thought the change in the title over there out of the room was 100% backing up our argument, Mojo. And I thought that was more important than hearing his bullshit, right, about tone checking people, gatekeeping, whatever he was doing. Listen, I like Adams, and you know what, even though he called me a bitch, I still like the Kimba. Maybe he's just having a bad day, I don't know. But I thought it was important to make that announcement because it ties into what we were doing here, not his bullshit.
Yeah, in fact, I think the title of the room does more to illustrate the point that we were trying to make here than anything that anybody said on the stage. The truth of the matter is there, and I'm somebody that believes in free speech. I wouldn't write a letter to Clubhouse and say, hey, can you disallow them to do that? I'm just saying that I don't want that in my space. And then Sarah, who's somebody that frequents this space, this is how it all began, was me reaching out to her and just telling her it was a bad look. And rather than her, acknowledging that, yeah, you're probably right, it's a bad look, what she did was double down and said that she thought it was funny. And so that's how her and I argument became public, was that I tried, like some people said, hey, why does this have to be content? I tried addressing this privately. She was the one that brought it into public. I sent her a private message, which, if she were here to consent, I would read it to you or post it for you. It was just simply telling her that I thought it was a bad look. And again, she's free to do it. I'm not going to, say otherwise. But I think that intentionality matters, and creating a space that allows for that, I think, shows an intention of something that I don't want to be a part of. And so I look at, if you think about it, that space now has Pepe as a moderator. So they went from allowing Pepe to say it to saying, hey, we want Pepe to lead the charge here. So if you want to think of this as battle lines being drawn, you have a mature conversation happening in one room, and you have people that quite literally want to allow all of the trash to come in and congregate.
Well, I'll say this. First off, we all know Kim is coming back in here because he thinks the whole app is about him. But if you notice in the dialogue I had with him, he said, "Why? Well, you're triggered." I wasn't the one making threats. I wasn't calling him names. I was just, hey, dude, relax, take a breath.
The master.
The conversation's not about you.
JB, let me address Alan Dean. Alan Dean, who also loves those. The use of the N-word in those rooms. He says, so Roger, you decided that Sarah needed your advice, and when she didn't follow your advice private, you felt to make the discussion public. No, quite the contrary. I approached her privately, and then she brought it up publicly in a room.
So I was texting to Victoria that she gets pretty privileged. That's why I try to be nice to her. Because she is gorgeous, but she's insane. But anyway, listen, Jamie's going to come back in here. I guarantee you with the 24 hours he apologizes to me. And I don't care. Listen, one of the greatest lessons I learned on this app, Mojo, was I was speaking to a friend who was a kind of an influence on this app. And he left this app for a while. And he said to me, he said, bro, I went into a swimming pool for the first time in 2 years. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm not wasting my time on Clubhouse anymore. And that shit hit me. And since then, I've been on 4 vacations. I'm on one right now. As we speak, I'm in Texas. So people need to get outside, get back to their lives, and understand Clubhouse is not real.
I agree. I took 6 months off of this app, and it was glorious. And Dr. Jordan, who's unmuted to say something, he's the reason. Blame him that I'm back on the app. I had a near-death experience in his automobile, and we got to talking about the app, and here I am. So, Dr. Jordan, go ahead and whatever you...
I was going to ask JB if the public figure or influencer that he was talking about was me. I mean, I don't mind if you use my name. It's absolutely fine.
I already said I love Dr. Jordan, and as I got to know you over the years, man, I got a lot more respect and love for you, man.
I think the whole world, The whole world is totally missing out. This fucking app is priceless to me. Like, I could be doing other things, but I love you guys, and like, I think that this app is incredible, and I almost don't want to share it with the world because the rest of the world doesn't deserve to be on it.
Well, Jordan, let me just say this real quick, man. See, like you,
every week.
We do, but let me say this. You and I have built a rapport and a relationship over years, right? We've spoken offline. Same thing with Mojo, same thing with Rohan, and some other people, Adams, right? Nye, I love Nye, I think she's amazing. But we've cultivated legit friendships, right? Somebody like Sarah, who just got on the app and she's in Mojo's space for 2 months, automatically, well, I thought you were my friend, Mojo. I thought you were going to protect me at every beck and call. Lady, it takes years to build friendships, relationships, rapport.
And to your point, I mean, these are real friendships. Not only that, but they're deeper friendships than we have with many people because we're candid. I mean, to find a comparable relationship with my friends in real life, I would have to go on vacation with them for extended periods or talk on the phone with them at length. Like, I don't know that. I don't talk. Your friends, your closest friends are the ones who you are talking to day to day, whether you want them to be or not, right? And like, we know how people are feeling. We know what's going on in their lives because we're communicating. And I think that I think using the term in real life versus on Clubhouse is a misnomer. It's in person versus on app. And Roger still likes me even after meeting me in person. So, I mean, there's that.
Well, that's a little still touch and go. I heard about your driving experience.
I will say, if anybody ever gets a chance to meet Dr. Jordan in person, you should do it. When you see the neuroticism on this app, just multiply that by a factor of 10. But then once you move past that, he's incredible. I think the experience I had hanging out with Dr. Jordan and with Uncle Steve, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Uncle Steve welcomed us into his home and was playing like oldies rock and roll, and we just sat there and we bullshitted for hours. And then Dr. Jordan and I hit the town, and and then after the near-death experience, we got to break bread together and laugh and talk. And it was Dr. Jordan that convinced me to come back to the app. So,
how many packs of smokes did Uncle Steve go to?
I'm going to tell you, he is such a polite guy. He even asked us permission as guests in his home. He wanted to go outside to smoke a cigarette. We're like, dude, it's your house. Go ahead, do your thing. So it was great. I will say this. I'll say the same kind words to Uncle Steve. I thought meeting him in person. These two guys are exactly what you would expect to meet. When you hear them on the app, they're exactly what you would expect in real life.
Yeah, Uncle Steve is his hospitality, his etiquette is really unmatched. Like, he was like really concerned about like if we started to interrupt or respond to something, he would like quiet down. Like, he should run the hospitality school at Cornell University, like that college. Like, he's very, very attuned to that. I was super impressed.
Yeah,
like Roger, like
there was this politeness where, you know, like on this app, we start to interject before somebody, finish what they were saying. It's almost like he has this like mute button for himself where he's like, oh no, go ahead and finish. Like, he always was very gracious of like, he wanted to hear what other people had to say before he spoke. And it was very interesting, but again, nothing but the best things to say.
Well, Mojo, let me just say this, man. I had kind of the same exact experience you're describing with El Normo and Marvin. I've met probably a couple hundred people off this app, and my favorite meetup ever was with El Normo. He's exactly the same person in real life, except he's probably like 6'5". You don't realize how big this dude is. He's a big dude. He's not like, people have to, and then I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, if you saw him face to face, you would never say 90% of the things you say. But Norm, you're going to sit down and have lunch. He's going to treat you like a Jew, like he's a Jewish father, and you're definitely going to have a good time and be engaged. Normal, I love you, Normal.
Nice. It is so nice to. I certainly did my best.
You keep muting yourself? You've been on this app 12 years.
And I think he's got that glitch.
No, we may have to leave and come back. I tell you what, I met him. Marvin is exactly the same.
Same level of exaggerations.
Yeah. But you know what? He's not a big guy. I thought he was going to be like this really big dude. He's not. Norm, on the other hand, he's like 6-something, big dude, and you know he can scrap. What's up?
I feel the same way about you. Plus, you train.
You keep me. You gotta have to leave the app and come back.
That cut off at exactly the wrong.
Right?
Well, I turned him on to this incredible pizzeria in Brooklyn. It's so good that Norm went back like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. Agent, who's on stage, I invited him to the pizzeria. I didn't get to meet him because I had food poisoning that day, unfortunately. But him and Norm went to that pizzeria, and Agent said it was fantastic.
It was great. Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person next time.
Absolutely. Norm, can you try your mic now?
Yeah, how's it now? Better?
Much better. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I closed the app. I think the app is getting sick of me talking so much. It's just like automatically muting. Maybe they're like, I have a limit of how many words I can use, you know? They're just cutting me off.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How many times have you been back to Spumoni Gardens since you went there with them?
Oh, at least 20.
Oh,
It's
wow.
I can't believe I call myself a New Yorker and I had never been to L&B Spumoni Gardens. It's just amazing. And then my kid, you know, is having his friends over. Okay, I'm now going to get you the best pizza. They deliver, by the way. I'm going to get you the best pizza on the planet that you've ever had in your life. And they just went nuts for it.
Well, I tell you what, when Mojo finally gets his ass over to New York, and Jordan and Rohan, if he ever comes to America, I'm definitely taking this Spumoni.
Yeah, we got to do it.
I'm honored for everyone in the room. I was there, and now Norm's been 20 times. It was just me and Norm the first time that both of us were there. That's very cool, Norm. And thanks for that. We were supposed to have JB there, but he got sick that day. But yeah.
I tell you what, listen, Norm, when Mojo comes to New York, I'm taking him to Randazzo's Clam Bar in Sheepshead Bay. Best clams in the world. And I'm going to take him to Spumoni Gardens. He's never going to want to leave New York.
That's true. He won't even make any of those odd noises he makes about Mexican food in New York. Sorry, I'm just teasing you on that.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys have Mexican food?
We have some from the province of Puebla. They actually call New York Puebla, York, and it's actually in food trucks. That's like the secret good Mexican food in New York, and it's really pretty good. It is very competitive. And I'm sure it does not compare to anything that you consider good Mexican food. I don't know if we can't get the right chilies or something. I mean, it doesn't taste like.
Norm, when I was in California, we used to get better Mexican food than Mexico.
Right.
And the thing that I would ask you to think about is like, can you get a bagel outside of New York City as good as the bagels that you have?
No, you just can't. I don't know why, but you can't.
Same thing.
It's the water.
Well, let me ask the question though. Like, if I were to go, like, I don't know, 2 miles from here in the valley in Los Angeles, in San Fernando Valley, and I go in, I'll find these Mexican restaurants all over, like scattered throughout Van Nuys, and isn't New York have all these Mexican like grocery stores, but not necessarily a Little Mexico version?
They're called bodegas.
Yeah, we have them, but it just doesn't measure up to. I mean, the food in California is just so fresh, and it just tastes so alive. And it's like you just go to some guy with a grill out on the street in, say, San Diego. You know, I used to go to Silicon Valley a lot, and it's just the most delicious thing. It's like, how are you doing this? With one exception, my friend married a Mexican woman. when I went to their house, it was like, you want to eat? It's like, well, I don't really, but they just like whip something up in her kitchen. And it was like one of the most delicious meals I've ever had. Out of nothing. It just pulled things out of the fridge and pulled them together. So I think the ingredient might be love and care, and maybe she knew where to get the good ingredients, but it was really remarkable. You're reminding me I want to go back there and let them offer me dinner again. It wasn't even stuff I'd ever seen on a menu, you know? She's from a different part of Mexico. I'm sure there are many cuisines in Mexico, by the way.
Yes, there are. You know what I hate is Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Texas right now, and I have to say, this is probably my 1,000th time in Texas. I've never had good Mexican food here. I have better Mexican food in New York City.
You know, we've had this conversation about, I don't want to drift too much here, but we had these conversations about like Fridays and Chili's and these kind of cheesy Americanized restaurants. But I used to love Fridays, quite frankly. I thought it was awesome. I don't have any here, and Tony Roma's isn't around anymore in LA.
Well, Fridays closed a lot of stores nationwide. I know they closed a bunch in Brooklyn. They were having financial problems. Fridays, who remembers Beefsteak Charlie's, Tony Roma's, all of them.
There's the best chain pizza place that I've ever seen is Amici's. I don't know if you guys have ever had Amici's pizza.
Yeah, it's really good.
But Amici's will try to emulate the best of each of the types of pizza that you can get. And I will say that the more that I've been trying different things, I'm now a big fan of Detroit style pizza. I think you don't need a bunch of slices. You want one slice of Detroit pizza is all you fucking need. Again, respectfully, I've never tried the pizza in New York, but I will say that trying New York style pizza elsewhere, it's probably one of my least favorites. I think Chicago's overrated too. New Haven pizza, which with the clams and the sauce, I think that's really fucking good. And I think Detroit style pizza is really good as well.
I promise you, when you come to New York and I take you to Spumoni Gardens, you will definitely change your mind about New York people.
Okay.
Well, don't start them at the top. You don't start them there, because then you won't be able to eat any other pizza. They're only going to want to go there.
That's
you give them a few different opportunities first. You know, there are a couple of other good places.
Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
Why don't we grab a slice from 3 of the top pizza places, and then we'll go and we'll sit down. We'll do a clubhouse room, and we'll sit, and then we'll just kind of bite into each of them, and we'll discuss the flavors.
That's a great idea.
I can make this trip happen end of August if you guys are.
Oh, I'm up for it, and I know I have 2 places I could recommend. I don't know about Norm.
I got some. I'm just thinking. I think DeFara's, it may still be open, but it's not the same DeFara's, because I think the guy finally retired, at the age of 90 or something. And Totono's, I think, is closed. Fortunately, I got to hit both. Is Totono's closed? Do you know? Should we
No, Totono's is open, but they only open 2 days a week. But I'll tell you what, there's a place called Lucia on Avenue X, Norm. It was rated it was rated by the New York Times as one of the best 100 eating spots in New York City. It is fantastic. It's 10 minutes from my house, bro. We should definitely go there.
Okay, hang on. I'm writing these things down so I don't forget them. Lucia on Avenue X. How did you forget that?
Well, they just opened 2 more spots in Manhattan. They're going to blow up this place. The food is, and they're small spots. They're like 10, maybe 15 people in seats. That's it. But the pizza, Mojo, I'm going to take you to Lucia. I'm going to take you to Spumoni Gardens. You'll never want pizza anyway.
We didn't go to Locali. Locali is really good too. The guy who started is a really cool guy.
So I forgot to mention, when Roger and I went out to eat, he eats a lot because he's huge, right? He's 6'4", and he eats like a bear. And so I don't know if you guys know this. He kind of
hold on. But you took me to a vegan Mexican spot. So yeah, of course I'm going to eat a lot of vegetables.
I mean, I'm a big guy, but Roger is actually animal sized.
So when we walked in, everybody
Wait,
was
Roger,
looking-
he said that respectfully. You're animal size.
No, that's just cool. He knows animals. So he's been in cars with bears, dude. So when Dr. Jordan and I arrived at this place, I would say the average age was about 25. And me and Dr. Jordan came in, and like, it was weird. It felt like the music stopped and everybody in the place was staring at us. We were moving in slow motion. I think Dr. Jordan might be a celebrity in his part of LA because it was very, very.
Well, wait, let me just be clear. One of the reasons we went there, so it used to be owned by the Jackson family, Jackson 5, and it was open. It was late at night. There aren't many places open. So it's right on Ventura Boulevard. So I don't want to give people the impression that I was targeting younger folks. It just happened to be a place that was open as well, right?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
And we did need to recover after I almost put him through the back window.
So, Dr. Jordan, can we agree the next time we hang out, we'll just get an Uber?
Yes.
Jordan, when you say he's animal size, what animal is he comparable to? Because I know he's a big dude. I always known that. But
So there's an extinct species of bear that's gigantic called a short-faced bear, and he's like a short-faced bear.
Jesus Christ.
you should change your name from Mojo to Bear.
Wait, Roger isn't short. Well, look, Dr. Jordan said I was 6'4". I'm not 6'4". I'm 6'2.5". And I don't know how much he said I weighed. I don't think I look like a bear. I think maybe more like a kangaroo when they stand.
I mean, I'm 210 pounds, and Roger's bigger than me, so, and I'm 6 foot.
I remember when I crossed the 200 mark, man, that was a crazy feeling when I looked at the scale and I went over 200. That was wild.
Yeah, I used to be happy about it. Now I'm not so happy about it because I understand that, you know, that's not really a healthy weight for me.
Hey, no, how tall are you? I want to guess you're 6'3", 6'4". Norm, you there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was talking with the mute on. 6'3".
Yeah, you know, you have that look
Right.
about you. You have that look about you that you could scrap. Let one of these anti-Semites say it to your face, and it's something.
Yeah, I mean, you have to in New York. You have to be able to scrap, or else, you know, you're just going to be, you know, you're going to be victimized or something. You're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Chopped meat. You have to be able to at all times. And then, you know, you carry yourself that way, and that avoids most scraps, you know. Showing a lack of fear. Being able to handle yourself. And sometimes the Second Amendment.
Wait, so Norm, when you were at those protests in the 60s, did you scrap?
No, it wasn't necessary. We didn't have to do anything violent. We marched around. We were like holding signs. And
Wait. Were you at Woodstock?
No, I'm too young for that. But I was around as a very young kid. I was around to protest the Vietnam War, and I did go. We used to have like demonstrations right in front of my high school. I was very young in high school. They kept accelerating me, and I thought, okay, I'm getting over because I'm getting out of having to go to extra school. But it sort of caught up with me in the end because I got to college. I was really young. I didn't really know how to handle myself socially with all of those opportunities, if you know what I mean.
You mean getting late?
Yeah, social opportunities. Yeah, because there were women who were much older and stuff, or a few years older. And, you know, I don't think a girl wants to go out with a younger guy.
That's not true. But
No?
let me ask you. Nah, definitely not. Did you grow up in the age of peace and love?
Yeah, kind of the tail end of it. I wasn't really into the punk thing, but when it came, I sort of fit naturally into it because that's the way I dressed anyway, in a leather jacket, dark clothes. I mean, everyone in New York wears black, so it's sort of natural for New York. It's funny because in other sections of the country, people don't wear black. Or not as much. And then there was like one neighborhood in LA. It's not Silver Lake. What's it? Maybe it is Silver Lake. Silver Lake in the area after, like, all of a sudden everybody's wearing black. It was the funniest thing. It was like the East Village.
No, where are the good Jewish delis in New York anymore? They're all gone, Normie.
I'm almost, well, I mean, Taxes is sort of a tourist attraction, but I still think it's okay. I know some others. I'm almost hesitant to mention any Jewish locations on the app because I don't know everybody who's listening. It's a big room.
And Norm, if you and I go, me, you, Mojo, go to Cats just for lunch, we're dropping $250.
Well, we don't have to eat that much. I can't even get through a whole sandwich on my own. The sandwiches are enormous. I don't have to drop quite that much. Look, Ken is here. We should include him too.
Oh, that would be great. I'd love to meet Ken. We used to have one great Jewish deli in San Francisco. It was called Miller's East Coast West, and they used to have their food shipped to them 3 times a week from another deli that was in New York City. So all of their ingredients came from a deli that was in New York. And then I don't know if it was the pandemic that got them, but the last time I was in San Francisco, the restaurant was closed.
What's up there, Ken? How you doing?
I'm hanging in, JB. How are you?
Stay there and hanging up. Yo, Ken, what's your three best pizzerias in New York City?
Wow, it's not fair to ask me anymore because I haven't been to New York in a long time. So, seriously, I don't even think I'd be qualified to answer that question.
Wait, are you in Vegas now?
I've been in Vegas for a long time now. In fact, I haven't been I haven't lived in New York as a resident for a very long time because I lived in California for years too.
The 3 best buffets in Vegas.
Oh, okay. Wynn. If we're talking about ones that are open every day, because there's one really good one that's only open Sundays, but we skipped that one. It would be Wynn. And this is going to surprise people because everyone's going to say, why don't you say Bacchanal at Caesars? But I won't. Wynn, the Palms, and here's the hidden gem, and this is a relatively new buffet. It's a kind of a buffet within an existing Chinese restaurant, so it's not necessarily marketed as a buffet. There's a seafood, Asian, what do they call it? Asian seafood buffet. And they have other stuff too, but within the Genting Palace in Resorts World, and it's cheaper than the Bacchanal at Caesars. I think the seafood is better, the way that they do it.
Ken, I have a question for you. So, have you ever been to Tahoe, the Caesars, the Harrah's buffet at Tahoe?
I have been to Tahoe several times, but I can tell you I haven't probably been there since 2000. I mean, it's been a long time. I had one of Roger. I will tell you, I had one of my greatest gambling wins ever in Tahoe, but it was I think it was in the 1990s.
Were you at Bill's by chance?
No, this was at Harrah's Harrah's Tahoe.
Yeah, Bill's is a small one next door where almost everybody that starts a story about a big win in Tahoe, it came from Bill's, and I always wondered if that was some weird coincidence.
No, this was Harrah's Tahoe.
Wait, what was the game?
Well, there were 2 games, so I'm going to get to it, okay? So it started off, I hit a video poker progressive for it was a $1 game. So, $1 video poker typically only plays 4,000, but this was a progressive. The meter was way up there. And I hit it for over 8,000. But the big part of it came, I went to a dice table. I started with a $25 bet. And it's a full, table, okay? dice, whatever. I mean, you're asking me to remember exactly what happened 20 years ago. It's hard, but the dice came to me, so I was the shooter. So it wasn't. I just didn't get lucky on someone else's roll. It was my shooting, but it wasn't me just playing by myself. Okay, and I held the dice for like 40 minutes, which is, dice, that's a really long time. And I kept upping my bets. And starting with a $25 line bet, I won.
Did you fully back it up?
Of course, I always do that, But they were, but it was. I think at that point they were only doing 2 times odds. They weren't even doing 3, 4, 5, if I remember. It's a long time ago. But I won $10,000 starting with a $25 line bet, and that's not easy to do. So.
Dude, that's awesome. Ken, did you know the Cromwell? I haven't been there in a minute, so it might be different. But the Cromwell used to offer in Vegas 100 times odds behind your pass line.
Was it the Cromwell or was it Casino Royale? I think it was Casino Royale.
They did as well, but the most recent one that I saw was Cromwell.
I doubt it. You know why? It's owned by Caesars. They would never do that.
Go look it up.
I'm like almost 100% sure you're wrong, Roger.
If they're not still doing it, that's fine. But I'll show you where.
Okay. I would be very surprised because Caesars is like a big corporation that's very tight on everything. All these places, the multi-property casinos, typically run their odds on dice the same way at every one of their properties. They don't deviate.
Can I ask you a question without you doxing yourself? What did you? I know you worked for the casinos. What did you do for them? Were you like a director?
No. I was more like I've been a consultant, at various times, because I was when I was on Wall Street, I followed the casino industry, so I learned a lot about it. And then when I kind of left that, I had my own investment business. They were able to hire me when they wanted to.
What do you think about New York City is going to get 2 brand new casinos? What do you think about that? I know the guy who owns the Mets, Steve Cohen, is going to get one of them by City Field. I don't know who's getting up.
I'm going to tell you what, Jay. I know Stevie Cohen is considered one of the favorites. I wouldn't necessarily make an absolute bet that he's going to get one, but he's definitely one of the leaders. Okay, I'm going to tell you the one I think absolutely will get one, and I'll tell you exactly the reason why. And because it's not just New York City, as you know, it's downstate, so it's also the counties around New York City. So I think the number one contender is going to be where there's already an existing, technically it's a casino, but it's only slots, And I'm not talking about Aqueduct. I'm going to get to Aqueduct in a second, but like Aqueduct, is the MGM casino in Yonkers. And the reason why I'm so certain about that is my understanding of New York politics. The state Senate majority leader is from Yonkers. The chair of the New York State Assembly Committee on Gambling is from Yonkers. And in New York, the state Senate majority leader has enormous power, almost as much as the governor. So that's what tells me MGM absolutely is getting one of the 3. Okay? Now, for a long time, it was always assumed that the Resorts World one at Aqueduct would get one because it's existing, and for some reason people perceive that, or, well, if you're already existing, they'll give it to you to upgrade so you can also offer table games. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, because I don't want to lose the audience, in the downstate area in New York, which is the New York City plus the counties immediate surrounding it, there are 2 places that have they're not even traditional slots, but they're called video lottery terminals. You wouldn't know the difference. They look like slot machines. Okay, and they pay a very heavy tax to the state and localities. But there's no table games. You can't play dice.
Well, Ken, let me just say this real quick. Don't even mute up. I've been to Aqueduct one time. I'll never go back. It's a fucking...
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Well, hold on. Before you go on, I just want to say I posted the thread on Wizard of Odds. That thread's old, so it might not be recent. which is both the Cromwell and Casino Royale.
Well, okay. Not that couldn't be wrong, but I'm gonna see if I can verify that with somebody.
Yeah, and if you can tell me, I'll tell you this: if you can verify that it is 100 times odds, that's probably the best place that we could all do a clubhouse meetup. Would be let's meet at the dice table that's offering that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure Casino Royale does it anymore. By the way.
Yeah, they stopped doing that like a decade ago, I would say.
I didn't think so. Okay. By the way, one of the issues, Roger, with 100 times odds, I mean, because I know that mathematically that's correct. I would probably, unless I was only betting $1, I would never play 100 times odds because of the volatility.
So it says on the Cromwell what they do is they allow 100 times odds on a $5 pass line bet. So they're essentially allowing you to back it up to 500 from $5.
Right, knowing that anybody that would try that would probably go broke. Most of these people. Okay.
Well, but hold on. Just know though that the odds bet behind that is it nullifies the house edge. The only better bet that you can get on that entire table.
No, I understand.
If you put your odds on the don't pass, the odds on the don't pass.
I understand all of that, but most of these people that try the 100 times odds, particularly when it was only $1, you know. They don't come with like a $15,000, $20,000 bankroll. They got $500 in their pocket. They put $1 down. They take 100 behind, 7 out. They put another $1 behind. They put another 100 behind, 7 out. Okay, in 5 or 6 or 7 rolls, they're done. Okay, because variance is real. It's not just the mathematical. You know, I mean, you've got to survive variance. You know, and that's in any game. Even when you have an edge, even when you're a blackjack card counter or whatever, you've got to survive variance. And so you have to understand, like, you know, what we call your risk of ruin, and there's a mathematical formula for that.
Nobody's saying you should win. In fact, the house still has an edge even on this. You're right to point out that that you have to factor in variance. But when you're factoring variance, it's better. It's always better to reduce the house edge, and that's the maximum that you're going to utilize.
You know what, Roger? Like every professional card counter I know, and I know a lot of them, including some of the guys who've written the books, where they actually have the edge. They're not just like, okay, they would all disagree with you. That's what, and they all watch what they're betting, okay, in terms of bankroll management, okay, because of the variance.
Wait, hold on. I want to get this straight. You're going to say a professional game is going to rising house edge is
what I'm telling
you said that somebody would disagree with. Well,
I'm telling you that every professional, even blackjack card counter, okay, like for example, if somebody has let's say there's a blackjack card counter and their bankroll's $50,000, okay, just to say, okay, and you said on this game the count is plus 13, which is a massive edge. Okay, it's probably as high of an edge you'll get on blackjack. Okay, you have an edge. You're not break even anymore. You have a massive edge on the house. Okay, will you take all your 50,000 that you have? Because if you lose that, you have nothing else to play with. Okay.
Ken, you're making a point that I wasn't even talking about. I'm simply saying, like, you're saying I'm agreeing that you should care about variance and bankroll management. What I'm suggesting is the better that you can reduce the house odds, the better off you are. Of course, you still have to manage your bankroll and consider variance, but there's not a single professional gambler that would disagree that minimizing the house edge is a good thing.
That is correct. However, they would all weight bankroll management and the variance is more important than getting the last, the last edge. Meaning, so what I'm saying is they would never risk their entire bankroll just because they got 1/1000th of 1 point, better edge somewhere.
Well, of course not. You wouldn't risk your whole bankroll even if you were a 52% edge to the player. Of course you wouldn't do that. But that's not my point. My point is that if you go to a craps table where almost every bet has a high house edge, and then you find the one bet on the table that almost neutralizes the house edge to zero, that's a much better bet, and nobody's going to disagree.
Right, except what they will tell you, let's say on the Cromwell, let's assume you're correct on the Cromwell, if your entire gambling bankroll that you brought with you is $500, betting, 5 on the line and 500 behind, is if you want to.
Well, yeah, then of course you can't afford to play that game. I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. You can't afford to play that game, but that doesn't make that bet bad. In fact, that bet will always be on
it doesn't make
given roll.
It doesn't make the bet bad, but it makes it unintelligent for like 90% of players. Okay, or so. Because the average person doesn't have a gambling bankroll that they can withstand the kind because you're basically betting $500 a roll. Exactly.
I'm not arguing that at all. What I'm suggesting is that on any given bet, on that, out of all the bets you can make on the dice table, the don't pass backup odds bet is the best.
You're correct on the math. Okay, yeah, okay. And then there's the kind of the reality when you play in real life, about like not going home broke. But you're correct on the math, And certainly, by the way, if you had Bill Gates's bankroll, then that would be the thing to do.
Sure.
And I'll tell you a Bill Gates story from Las Vegas to prove my point. By the way, okay, Bill when he would come here would play incredibly low limit, like poker, it's really low limit. Okay, like the stuff that like everybody could play. So he's playing at Bellagio. Whatever he's playing maybe he's playing a 2-5 game or something. If whatever.
He's playing a white chip game.
Well, they don't have a white chip game at Bellagio or something. With the lowest game, what would it have been?
A red chip game.
Yeah, so he's a red chip game. Okay, and all the super high rollers are in Bobby's room. You know what that is, right, Roger? The high limit. It's not called Bobby's room anymore, but it was named after Bobby Baldwin. It's like this room in the back, but it's open to the public because you have to be legally. So anybody who comes up with enough table stakes can play. Okay, and they play for super high stakes. Well, Jennifer Harmon, who some of you, if you follow poker, one of the top poker players, right? Yeah, in the world. Okay.
We were just talking about her yesterday in this room, by the way.
Okay. Jennifer walks over to Bill Gates and tries to induce him into their game. And I think they were playing 10,000. They were probably playing no limit, but I think Bill sometimes was playing limit. He might have been playing 10-20 limit, whatever the situation. So anyway, so she goes over to him and says, hey, we're playing like 10,000, 20,000 or something. Would you like to join us? And Bill basically, because he said, his response was, he says, change the limits to 1 million to 2 million. I'll be right up. And she just turned white. Okay? And all of a sudden she just soaked off. Okay? Because she was trying to sucker him in. And he was basically telling her, you know what? You think you're a big shot. Now you're not, And, and so, and the fact that, Jennifer Harmon, even if she would have somehow been able to borrow the money somehow, wouldn't have, played Bill Gates for $1 million to $2 million,
Well, I would actually push back on that because what we were talking about last night is that when it comes to cash games, people have found their heroes from television that have won poker tournaments, and the tournament circuit's completely different, which she plays on as well. But when it comes to cash games, she was biggest financed player that played, and not just in Vegas. She was in LA. She played big games in Texas.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I understand. But there's a limit. There's a limit even there. How much she could borrow, what limit she was going to play. You know, I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not limitless. Bill Gates effectively has a limitless bankroll, which was the point that he was trying to make. You know?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I wonder. I would imagine she's played at that stake before, because there's been Texas oil billionaires that have talked about playing.
I know about those games, and there's a book written on it, but they weren't playing. So, Roger, I'm talking about with the blinds. The lowest blinds are like $1 million to $2 million. Jennifer doesn't play games on cash games. None of them play.
Well,
Not
yeah.
Doyle Brunson.
Well, they wouldn't finance themselves, but they can find people that would back them to play those games.
Well, no, they never have. So I'm going to tell you right now, they never have. The closest you'll come, and there's a book written on it, okay, and it's called like The Banker and Suicide and something, and I forgot what the other part of it is. It's a story about a Texas banker, actually, named Andy Beal. Very wealthy guy, a billionaire, okay? And, you know, and he was willing to put up like X amount of money to play because he wanted to play against, you know, this crew, right? And, you know, and even there, I forgot what the blinds were, but they were not $1 million, $2 million, okay? But it was a limit game, by the way, not low limit. Andy was not stupid. Andy was only going to play a limit game, okay? So they agreed to a limit hold'em, okay, which, you know, you hardly see anymore, okay? And whatever the stakes were, and you could read the book, so I don't have to, like, you know, recall it incorrectly. Yeah, they borrowed money and they pulled their money, actually. He was playing against a syndicate and he knew it. So they basically all pulled their money, and it wasn't a ring game. It was like a limit hold'em, and then they got to choose what player played against them at any given time. So in some cases it was Jennifer, and in some cases it was Ted Forrest, you know, but it was always heads up, right? So it was heads up, limit hold'em, and the syndicate, because he understood that they didn't have this kind of money, they could pool their money and then pick one of them to go play. You know, they could switch to the player on every hand if they wanted. Okay, that's what they did. And there's a book written about it. He won some, he lost some, but there's a whole book written about it. Okay, and that's as close as you've ever gotten to like a billionaire, like knowingly walking into a game and then pooling their money. Okay, and you know, and he was betting amounts that were still easier for him than for them. You know, okay, and you know, but nonetheless, and I think they also probably wanted a limit game because of the fact that, you know, they can't withstand the variance as much as he could. But, you know, so anyway, we spoke too long about poker and we just lost half the room.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I prefer to have the conversations I like to have. I don't care if people aren't interested, they can leave. But no, you're right about the Beal game. The biggest hand in that session was 11.7 million was the biggest pot. That was the biggest single pot. Which is, if you think about that, being a single pot, almost $12 million, it's fucking.
Yeah, but I think Ted Forrest ended up losing millions in that, if I remember right. You know, I think he wiped out his poker bankroll.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just to speak on that, like anybody that wants to go play poker, if you're serious about, if you're not just going to go casually play once or twice, you should have a bankroll of a minimum of 100 times the small blind. And if you don't have a minimum of 100 times the small blind, you shouldn't even.
There is a female there was a movie made about a woman who she's from Colorado, I think. There was a movie made about her. She was one of the very few female professional poker players at one point. And there was some scandal surrounding her story. I can't think.
I think she's not from Colorado. I know who you're talking about. She's not from Colorado. You talking about Annie Duke?
No. Let me look.
By the way, Eddie Duke is overrated, and Howard Lederer is even more over.
Yeah, okay. But, because the only, like, I mean, there's only, like, a couple of, like, really well, at least well-known, that are known. I mean, because, people could, survive in obscurity in terms of female poker players. And Annie Duke is one of them. Jen Harmon's another. Cindy Violette's another. Even though Cindy is, probably more known for playing stud than.
The book is maybe Ken. The book is called Molly's Game. It's about.
Oh yeah.
I'm connected to her on Facebook.
That game is about Toby Maguire essentially like having people that were losing players with big budgets in LA come and play, and then they moved the game to New York. I mean, like that book is all about Toby.
What is her involvement? What did
she arranged the game. She was like the hostess, and she was getting cuts for running the game, but she wasn't playing in those games.
I see.
So she's not a top female poker player.
There's a movie made from this book. It's not a bad.
There is, but it's not. But she's not a. But she is not a top female poker player. She's crucial to the story because she arranged the games. She was basically the. I mean, and she wasn't. When I say she arranged the game, she wasn't even playing in the house because because whatever they're playing themselves really because there is no house. Okay, she just arranged the game and she got a cut. However, she got compensated for arranging the games. Like she would invite Toby Maguire, as Roger said. She would find the players, and she'd make sure everybody had the pure alcohol, whatever else they want. She was just playing hostess.
And keep in mind the whole reason they were playing in these games in these hotels and playing privately is because they didn't want just anybody at the table. They were hand selecting people with major bankrolls that they knew couldn't play very well. But the types of people that when you tell them, hey, so-and-so is going to be at the game, you want to come play? Because they wanted to get that close to the celebrities, they'd say, okay. And a lot of those guys would go and lose tons of money and still feel good about it because they were losing their money to
Jessica Chastain plays Molly Bloom in that film.
And Michael Cera plays Toby Maguire, but they don't call him that.
Well, Michael Cera is much more, much less masculine even than Toby Maguire. That's very funny.
Some of those guys are pretty decent, though. Ben Affleck actually paid lots of money to accelerate his learning curve because he would go to the Commerce in LA back when right after 2004 when Moneymaker won the World Series, everybody wanted to go play poker, and Ben Affleck was really into it, and so he found Poker Pros, paid them a shitload of money, and accelerated his ability to play, and he would sit in limit games at the Commerce. Where they're playing 300, 600 blinds. It was a limit game, but 300, 600 is a big fucking game, as Ken could probably.
Before, I would say before Moneymaker, or just a couple of years before Moneymaker. I mean, even in the 90s, most of the bigger games were limit games. I mean, they